cracking, everyone? My name is Eric, and today we're gonna start on UI designing. This is gonna enter into a new field of work inside Roblox Studio. And before we actually proceed, I just want to show you the answer from last time. So this is the house I built. As you remember from last time, um, I set a challenge, and I'm gonna do that for each video to make sure you understood what's being talked about. Here you can see the process of me building it, and while I'm actually talking about this, I just want to quickly shout out the Dank Turtle. The Dank Turtle is a good friend of mine. He was kind enough to hit me up and provide me with a logo. That was very nice of him. As you can see, this is the logo he has designed for me, and he also provided me with a banner you'll be able to see on my channel. So I'll be using those. Huge thanks to the Turtle. You can find his channel link down in the description, so go show him some love there, and thank you so much. Anyway, that clip is done. Let's head over back. Actually today we're gonna insert a new field of work, so this isn't where we're gonna work. I'm gonna head on over to a new place. So here we are inside actually not a new place. I've used this before. I had just cleared it out just before. Yeah, it's completely blank. And as always, let's just set the material on the base plate because doesn't that look lovely? Pardon me. Right. UI design. Let's get started on this. So first of all, what is UI? UI stands for user interface, and it's everything the user interacts with. Whether you're clicking a button, reading a text, or just doing something that requires your input to the game, that will be considered UI. What we're going to focus on today is specifically GUI designing, which is everything that happens in the 2D world. Maybe in games you've opened up a shop, you have like leaderboards or stuff like that. All that is GUI or UI designing. It's like overlays like that. So today we'll be focusing on those 2D overlays. So there exists a lot of different UI systems, but today we're going to focus on those classic 2D on those classic 2D overlays that you know, whether it be a menu, a shop, or whatever. We aren't going to create a fully functional system because that also goes along with scripting and all that, but we can create the layout of it. So let's get started. So today we will be working with started UI. So remember, like all these folders that the game consists of has its like own field of work. So workspace is mainly for map designing, which we touched on. Today we're going to head on over to started UI. So this is all menus and 2D screens that starts when the player like respawns or joins the game, like when the player does the started UI. Actually, I didn't cover GUI. UI stands for user interface, and UI just stands for graphics user interface or graphical user interface. So you want to add an object, and the first thing you want to do is always add a screen UI. Nothing happened, right? That is true because what this does is this just creates a blank canvas that you can see, which allows us to put elements in here. Now that we've implemented the screen UI, we can add GUI elements. You'll notice we have a few frequently used here. For example, we have the frame, we have text button, text label, ignore the local script, image label, text box, and image button. These are all different GUI elements, the simplest of which is the text label. So let's put that. So you'll notice that this creates a 2D element. This is a text label. Each type of GUI element has its own purpose. The text label is probably the most simplest. This just has some text in it that you can't press or click or do anything with it. It's just a piece of text. So you can click on it and start dragging on it, and that way you can actually position it how you like, and you can resize it and all that. However, if you want to become any serious with UI designing, you don't want to do drag and drop. You can customize it perfectly using the properties. In our example, we're gonna create like a little pop-up right here down in the bottom that says what version we're in. It's transparent. Maybe it says version 2.0. Let's do that as a challenge for today. That should cover everything. Right, let's put this back to where it was originally. There we go. So now we have this here. First, we want to label it. Actually, it's a good idea to label everything. I always recommend that to make sure you've got everything in order. Usually you have different screen GUIs for different systems. So I'm gonna call this miscellaneous GUI. So this is for anything miscellaneous, maybe like small little text, the version label, and all that. We are gonna call this version label. Once again, you can label whatever you like. Right. So the first thing you want to do is position it. For now, to make it simple, let's position it in the middle. So you'll notice that we can actually open up here. We have the x-axis and we have the y-axis, but on each point we can use both scale and offset. So I'll talk about what those are. So let's take the x-axis. These two will position the text label along the x-axis, horizontally that is. So the scale is a percentage of the entire axis. So this entire screen is 1 unit wide. So I'm just saying unit, it's 1 wide. Let's say that, or 100%. So when we say 0.5, it goes halfway along this line. So as you can see, it goes halfway along. So this, you want to look at this upper corner right here and not the middle, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So you'll notice that this point right here is exactly in the middle because I set it to be halfway along the x-axis of its parent. So you'll notice that if I say 0.75, and before I actually answer that, and just take a guess, what do you think that would be? How far do you think it will go? And so 0.75 is 75% or 3/4, so it would go 3/4 along the x-axis or the x-axis of the parent. So what the hell is offset then? Do we even need? So offset is the exact same, but instead of using a percentage of its parent's axis, it sets it in pixels. So if I say 500 here, it will move 500 pixels along the screen. So each has has its pros and cons. I almost always use scale personally because this means it's a percentage of the entire screen, meaning that it will always look the same no matter what device you're on. So you can see if I go into mobile, it's still halfway there, and if I exit, it's still halfway there. Unlike offset, if I set this to 300, it's only like one fourth of the way through. However, here it's almost halfway through. So once again, each has its own pros and cons. So we're going to set this in the middle, and the y-axis works the exact same way. So I'm also going to set that 0.5, 0.5. So why is it that the upper left corner is in the middle and not the actual middle? This is because of our anchor point. So our anchor point is the point that counts for the entire text label. This is what we set the position of. So well, this is pretty similar to using scale. So the anchor point here, let's take the x-axis or the x scale on anchor point. If I say 0.5, it will move halfway along the text label. So you'll notice that the text label actually moves, but that's because the position stays in order. So it's kind of confusing. I'd recommend just playing a little around with it, but you'll notice that our anchor point is halfway through the x-axis because it's set to that, and you can see if we click on it, this little box right here is the anchor point. It's halfway through, and I can do the exact same thing with the y-axis. Right, so now the anchor point is in the middle, and the anchor point itself is in the middle. So this text label is perfectly in the middle, as you can see. Right, now let's try to put it in the bottom left corner. So the anchor point should always represent the entire position. So if I want to place this in the bottom left corner of the screen, I want to put the anchor point in the bottom left corner of the text label. I will just make it easier. So position is going to be the same 0 for the x-axis and 1 for the y-axis. So there you go, it's perfectly in the bottom left corner. Right, so size, it's the exact same way as it works in the exact same way as position. It just extends it instead of moving it. So I'm gonna 0.2 and 0.1 here. So that is quite a bit big. I don't want it to be that big, so let's scale it down. 0.05. There we go. So now we have a little label. It says like this. So now we can start customizing our label. First of all, actually before that, wait, no, never mind. Actually, let's start customizing it. So we want ours to say what version we're in. So mine is going to say version 2.0. And if we change the text right here under properties, you'll notice it says version 2.0. And then we can also change the font. We have a bunch to choose from. We can do arcade, which looks pretty cool. Let's do that one. Right, and we can also change the text color 3 using an RGB value. So I haven't talked about this. I'll cover that in another video, but let's set that to red. Actually, no, let's do blue, perfectly blue. Right, so That looks good, but it's kind of small. So let's use the font size, or sorry, text size. So text size, here you can set it using regular numbers. So I can make it bigger and bigger, and the max is 100, beyond which is bigger than the text label itself. Alternatively, I can use text scaled. By enabling text scale, it will size itself perfectly according to the text label size. So if I size down the text label, it would get smaller, and if I made it bigger, it would be bigger. So you'll notice that even if I set this to 100, it doesn't care because text scale is enabled, so it overrides this text size. So once that's done, we want you actually this might be a little more advanced, but you can also align it. So if I wanted to lean to the left side, right now it's in the center of the text label. However, I want it to be in the left side, I can say text X alignment and do left. And similar for Y alignment, I can do top and bottom, as you can see right here, but I'm going to keep that in the center. So now that that's done, you might be thinking, well, this doesn't look that appealing. There's this big fat text label. So for that, we have a bunch of other properties. So there are a lot of properties to talk about here. We also have border color and all that. But once again, those are kind of self-explanatory. Otherwise, you can just search them up. It's pretty simple. I'm just going to cover the most important ones right here, but feel free to experiment with other properties. So background transparency is just a similar to transparency of parts objects in the workspace. It's a transparency value from 0 to 1 of how transparent the background is, but not the text. So using this, we can make the background transparent and make it look like it doesn't really have a background, which looks a lot cleaner. So, and there we go. So we've managed to use position, size, and anchor points to position it correctly and make it the size we want. We've used text color and text scale to size it and make the text proper, and then we've used background transparency to, well, yeah, make the background transparent, obviously. Right, so I think that's going to pretty much cover it for the introduction to UI designing. There isn't a lot more to cover. Well, actually there is, but that is plenty for today. So the challenge for next video would be try designing any text label. So this one is pretty simple. You can just design any text label you want. Bonus points if you can manage to experiment with some of the other properties, such as some of them that I would recommend would be border color, border size pixel, or you can even change the visible properties. So bonus points if you can get those to work, and then try creating any text label. It doesn't really matter what, just any text label. So yeah, that's gonna cover it for the introduction to UI designing. Thank you so much for watching, and once again, go show Total some love. It's a really awesome design you made. I really love it. So yeah, thank you so much. And thank you guys for watching. Yeah, I'll hit you up in the next video, guys, and thank you for watching. Yeah, see you.